The prehistory of anime is the story of the life and eroticism of things, the connection between art in every moment, and the constant reinvention of native and foreign art forms. Anime has borrowed from a lot of Japanese culture, and in this video I'll be looking at each of these elements in turn, including important Japanese religions, artistic precursors, and also influential Japanese aesthetics. Shinto is the state religion of Japan and reached its pinnacle of importance during World War II. It is still very popular in Japan, as the most official of four religions that have been around for over a millennium and are sort of worshipped indiscriminately. In terms of how it tends to work, it centers around rituals diligently performed to connect present-day Japan to the past, and involves communicating with and at times even channeling spirits. In Shinto, everything has a spirit, from a rock to a wood to a river to a person, like the genius loci in Western mythology. They are all kami, which is sometimes mistranslated as gods. Of course, you generally only spend time and effort communicating with spirits that interest you, such as ancestors or powerful spirits, for instance a local giant serpent at its shrine. Influences of Shinto are everywhere in anime, but I'll try to go beyond the ubiquity of shrine scenes in anime, or the numerous shrine priestess classmates with some sort of mystical or magical power. The first influence has to do with Imperial Shinto, which is a special set of rituals conducted by the Japanese imperial family in order to protect Japan with aid from its fierce past, when it was known as Yamato. There's a slight difference between this and the rituals kings and queens of other places conduct. The kings, or rather queens, of ancient Yamato, for it was initially a collection of local clans, each with a matriarchal queen, were all shamanesses, responsible for religion and medicine. You see this straightforwardly in anime when a ruler performs rituals for its country. A clear example are the Kage of Naruto's world, who protect their community with the strongest magic, and are often in control of an incredibly powerful local monster, which is essentially a kind of village deity. Most of the magical girl anime also have a queen or similar ruler who does this, often with the heroine in line for the throne. Many important anime feature a type of link between the spirit of the ruler and the land. In a lot of Hayao Miyazaki films, for instance, the land is initially in poor shape because the human authority is essentially at war with nature. You can see this in Nausicaa, where countries laid waste to nature in warfare with each other, before nature in turn became gigantically and utterly nightmarish, and the Princess Nausicaa, who is agile, quick-thinking, and physically tough before she's a shamaness, manages to achieve a reconciliation. The Monogatari anime series is also another place you can see how the reservoir of Shinto thought is a useful port of call for directors and writers. There are obvious Shinto themes, for instance the classifications of monsters, which are often creatures of Shinto or local mythology, as oddities. In other words, just spirits who don't fit into the natural scheme of things. But their being oddities is itself their nature, and when they stop being the type of oddity they are for an extended period, a sort of unnamed warp in reality tries to suck them and any person they have interacted with into oblivion. There is also Shinto-influenced aesthetics in the direction of this supernatural series. A lot of this anime is basically in a high school harem format, where you've got one hero and a whole bunch of girls romantically involved with him, in this case including his sisters in a non-serious way. They all also end up being mixed up in the supernatural world of the town. What makes this anime supernatural world truly special is its deployment of a type of shibui aesthetic. Shibui means sour in Japanese, and it may be Japanese sen, but ends up being Shinto in effect. Basically, shibui is used to describe those cups and bowls and other objects which are simple and elegant but imperfect, and which when you pay attention just reveal more and more details, sucking you in. There's a fascination with imperfection, but I think this interest has something to do with the notion that there's some life in objects you can draw upon or highlight, which is a Shinto notion. This aesthetic is how the Monogatari series shows us its people. There's a constant interest on parts of faces, especially of people we are meant to like, and there are also shots where the camera sweeps around the person's face or looks at it from different angles, and the contact is really just play or wanting to look at a friend from an odd angle, and even give that friend a slightly different face. But in the scary world of the Monogatari series, where people are not that far away from small gods, a shibui viewpoint can also teach you better than anything to fear people or fear your impact on them. A tsundere was never more a tundra and yet lovable than in some of the shots of the female lead. And perfect loving smiles can threaten with entirely believable innocence to eat you up. Whole rooms can seem to become immense plastic or ceramic bowls. Another thing about these faces is that these are beautiful but also normal faces, but the characters are all idiosyncratic. Because we are looking at parts of them almost as Shibuya artifacts and constantly being impressed by the natures which almost work at being themselves, it's as if we are constantly aware of the spirit or intention under the face. When supernatural beings appear and do full-on violence to people and infrastructure, for a Japanese audience, I imagine it might be as if this is a natural extension of this connection drawn between spirit or role and object. Around the 6th century, someone in power made the official state religion Confucianism. In some ways, Confucianism can also be called bureaucratism. It even officially has no place for prodigies, prowess, lawlessness, or the supernatural in the Analects. You can imagine that the intrinsically ritual and mythology-conserved local belief system became tied to these things. One of the heroes of Shinto is the priestess or Miko who dances the kagura to channel spirits at events, and oddly enough, some Buddhist ceremonies. Part of the ceremony is spiritual possession. Wikipedia coyly states that at the current moment, kagura possessions are not genuine. The kagura and its otherwise named antecedents are incredibly important to Japanese theatre. A priestess who founded an odd type of kagura was the first kabuki dancer, now one of 2 internationally renowned Japanese theatres. The other, No or Nogaku, which was even more venerable and a big influence on Ezra Pound among others, borrowed a great deal in style from kagura. The name Kagura is itself often used in anime for a preeminent user of a transcendent combat ability, for example, magic. In Gintama, the lovable Kagura is often goaded by other members of the alien species, who are the most powerful warriors in all of space, to succumb to the call of a blood and enter a trance-like and murderous berserk state. This relates to the power of names in Shinto, where names work like invest in wicker, but often with a twist. If someone knows your name, they can use it to wield power over you, as in witchcraft, and there are lucky and unlucky names, which is more of a popular Buddhist thing really. But in Shinto, your name innately holds a certain amount of magic force. Thus it makes religious sense that having Kagura for a name gives you a natural affinity for supernatural skills. This is also deployed in the Academy Award-winning Spirited Away, where the main character is given a new name, Sen, so that she has authority over the spirits who visit the bathhouse. Japanese mythology is often associated in practice with Shinto worship or events, and is really recorded first in the Shinto equivalent of the Bible, its 7 histories. The creatures of the Shinto mythology are basically a constant feature in anime with the Japanese or at least non-Western bent, such as Naruto, which has kitsune or fox trickster elements in its main character design and associated monster, and other mythological creatures like a monstrous tanuki or raccoon dog, which were greedy, cunning, and madly playful in folk tales and earlier adaptations. Shinto religious practice is often about pollution and purification. If you get polluted, for example through contact with death or menstrual blood, you become self-absorbed and are separated from the other spirits or kami and an all-encompassing creative and harmonizing power called musubi. You then need to be cleansed at a temple, usually with water or ritual prayer, and you can see similar themes in some anime. In Spirited Away, for instance, polluted kami visit the bathhouse to cleanse themselves and can be transformed, as in the case of this god of the river. Buddhism is a world-famous religion founded by the Buddha, and it got to Japan in the 6th century. Numerous Buddhist terms feature constantly in anime such as Karma or Inga, Buddha, Butsu or Potoke, and Bodhisattva or Bosatsu. In anime, Potokes and Bosatsus regularly appear. Sometimes this is supernatural power such as in One Piece or Hunter x Hunter, or in namings or more prosaic, realistic statues popping up at roadsides or other appropriate locations. These are basically the saints of Buddhist theology. Jizo is one of the 2 most popular Bosatsus or Bodhisattvas and regularly appears as a small stone statue. Kuan Yin, or the Goddess of Mercy, is sometimes represented in a Lady Mary-like fashion, and at others as Thousand-Armed Kannon who can reach out and help many people at once. There are 2 popular Bosatsus who are of the 7 Buddhist gods of luck. Saraswati or Benton is the patroness of music and the arts, and appears as a cat-girl rock star in Kamichu. And Hotei, depicted as the laughing Buddha, was a jolly guy who liked to give kids sweets in the 10th century. He is later to be reborn as the Maitreya, or Miroku in Japanese, and re-establish Buddhism some 5 billion years from now. Hotei may be one reason there are so many playful mentors in Japanese anime, such as Jiraiya in the Naruto series. Another important Bosatsu is the founder of Zen, Bodhidharma or Daruma in Japanese. Many artworks celebrate him as a wild-eyed and bearded man. The popular round eyeless Dharma dolls are also depictions of him. When you buy the doll, you paint in one eye and make a wish. You paint the other eye when the wish comes true. Most great Buddha statues in the world are depictions of Vairocana, or the cosmic Buddha nature that underlies everything. In Japanese, this is Dainichi Nyorai. When you see a gigantic Buddha used as a weapon, such as in One Piece or Hunter x Hunter by two good characters, even if Kuan Yin is the actual representation as here, as a Japanese person you might well even sense the subtext of controlled atomic power. Lastly, there is a type of mystical Buddhism focused on successive initiations and constant guidance called esoteric Buddhism, which was really big among the Japanese elite centuries past. In this version of Buddhism, there are entities just a step below the Bodhisattva called the Vijayarajas or Wisdom Kings, transliterated into Japanese as Myo-o. These are not calm and compassionate like the Bodhisattvas, but are fierce fighters against ignorance and delusion. The most powerful is Akala or Fudo Myo-o, who has a flaming sword and aura, both of which Shakugan no Shana's main character also has. The 5-storied pagoda is also Buddhist architecture, and each level represents one of the elements: earth, fire, air, water, and void. Japanese Buddhism is the source of a lot of Japanese aesthetics. In Buddhism, all things come from and return to nothingness. This nothingness is a space of potentiality, and lives or events repeat themselves in a cycle called samsara, never achieving perfection. This transience and imperfection of things, along with a kind of Shinto view of nature as a dynamic entity to be admired, are fundamental to Japanese aesthetics. One example is the aesthetics of wabi-sabi, which are about mindfully appreciating everyday life. Basically, it refers to the beauty of imperfect, incomplete, and impermanent things. Things coming into being or passing into nothingness would fit this aesthetic. For example, budding flowers or falling cherry blossoms. The power of this aesthetic is often present in anime. One really good example is Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence, where characters seem unreal and fragile compared to the blaring solidity of a Buddhist karakuri parade. In Zen Buddhism, there are 7 principles for achieving wabi-sabi: Fukinsei, asymmetry or irregularity; Kanso, simplicity; Koko, basic or weathered; Shizen, without pretense or natural; Yugen, subtly profound or not obvious; Tatsuoku, unbounded by convention or free; Seijaku, tranquility. These all shape the Japanese approach to realism, which stretches from Zen portraiture through rangaku and realist painting to anime's often realist qualities such as drab colors, familiar settings, cinematic quality, and ability to realistically deal with any topic, however adult or sensitive. We'll cover these realist precursors in the section on art. Of the characteristics of wabi-sabi, Yugen, which refer to as subtly profound and not obvious grace, is quite important in Japanese art and culture. Yugen can be most obviously seen in the beautiful way objects of an immeasurable scale, which can hardly even be seen in full, are handled. Yugen is in Puramaji Madoka Machika's description of every witch, where deceptively mundane signs function within the witch's realm or mind as interior decor as well as deadly weapons, or the witch about Bogus Night, where the science and imaginations of the witch are so powerful that they have spilled out across the city, making it her own. The authorities just call it a major storm and tell everyone to hide. This impossible scale can also be seen in Bokurano's gigantic and hard to make out mecha. Somewhere between the influences of Japanese Buddhism and Shintoism arose the aesthetic of Mono no Aware. The term was invented by a critic of the 18th century Edo period, Otori Norinaga, to describe the tale of Genji and other important Japanese classics. Mono no Aware basically means the pathos of things, and like wabi-sabi is connected to a notion of the transience of things. While the mood is slightly different, it still recognizes the beauty of transient things but focuses less on a cyclical, everyday worldview that things will pass away and return, but instead on a gentle sadness at their passing. A lot of the understated aesthetic in Japanese shows can be related to this understated appreciation of change. Anime, of course, is heavily influenced by this and can use it in any number of ways. It's pretty influential in the traditional sense of Mono no Aware. In terms of anime, the classic Only Yesterday by Isao Takahata and the more recent My My Miracle by Sunao Katabuchi both emphasize the passing of time in gentle notes and by contrasting with the parallel storyline from the past. But the Mono no Aware concept is also associated with tea ceremonies or other kinds of sensory appreciation where you might see an object or smell something from the past and be moved with the gentle sadness of the beauty of a lost but still momentarily lingering past. This concept may be turned on its head. In Bokurano, the young characters have horribly emotionally scarred childhoods, but in preparation for mecha battle, the chosen pilot is confronted with a personally significant share retrieved from their childhood to arouse what you don't know, possibly childish obedience, possibly a visceral reminder that violence is a mode of the entire life, possibly just a deep sense of longing for an imagined childhood innocence.